You've been told that intermittent fasting is the fastest way to lose belly fat. Skip breakfast, eat in a short window, stay disciplined, and the fat will disappear. Sounds simple, logical, almost guaranteed. But here's the reality that most people only discover after weeks, sometimes months of frustration. They are fasting, and nothing is happening. The belly fat stays exactly the same. In some cases, it even gets worse. And that's when doubt begins. Maybe fasting doesn't work for me. Maybe my metabolism is broken. But what if the problem isn't your body, and it isn't fasting either? What if the problem is how you're doing it? Because intermittent fasting is not just about eating less often. It is about creating a very specific internal condition where your body is finally able to access stored fat. And if that condition is not met, your body will not burn fat, no matter how long you fast. Let me explain something that most videos completely ignore. Your body does not burn fat just because you stop eating. It burns fat when insulin is low enough, long enough, for a metabolic switch to happen. This switch is what separates people who lose belly fat from those who stay stuck. And here's where most people go wrong. They focus on the clock, not on the biology. They think that if they fast for 16 hours, the job is done. But your body doesn't follow a timer. It follows signals, hormonal signals. And the most important one is insulin. Every time you eat, your body releases insulin. Its job is to store energy. And while insulin is elevated, fat burning is not happening. Not slowly, not partially. It's paused, completely. So if your insulin stays elevated longer than you think, your fasting window becomes ineffective. And this happens more often than people realize. Because insulin is not just affected by how often you eat, but by what you eat, how stressed you are, and how sensitive your body is to glucose. Let me give you a clear picture. Imagine your body as a system with two modes, storage mode and burning mode. When insulin is high, you are in storage mode. When insulin drops low enough, you shift into burning mode. This shift is what we call metabolic switching, and this is where belly fat finally becomes available as fuel. But here's the problem. Many people never fully enter this state. They get close, but not enough. They fast. But their last meal was too high in sugar or refined carbs. They fast, but they drink something during the fast that triggers an insulin response. They fast, but their stress levels keep cortisol elevated, which interferes with fat burning. So they stay in between, not eating, but not burning fat either. And that's one of the most frustrating places to be. Because from the outside, it looks like you're doing everything right. But internally, the system is not aligned. Let me ask you something. Have you ever followed a fasting routine, stayed consistent, and still felt like your belly fat wasn't changing? Like you were putting in effort, but not getting results? If that sounds familiar, then what you're about to understand next is going to change everything. Because once you see what's actually happening inside your body during fasting, you'll realize it's not about doing more. It's about doing it correctly. Now let's go deeper. Because if you truly want to lose belly fat, you need to understand why this specific type of fat is so resistant in the first place. Belly fat is not just extra weight. It's biologically different. It's more sensitive to hormones, especially insulin and cortisol. And this is exactly why intermittent fasting works incredibly well for some people and fails completely for others. Because if those hormones are not under control, your body will protect that fat at all costs. Think of belly fat as a reserve, a backup system. From an evolutionary perspective, your body stores fat around the abdomen to ensure survival during times of stress. And when your body perceives stress, whether it's from lack of sleep, emotional pressure, or even aggressive fasting, it becomes more conservative. It holds on to that fat, not because something is wrong, but because it's trying to protect you. This is why one of the biggest mistakes people make is combining intermittent fasting with a high-stress lifestyle. They skip meals, but rely on caffeine to stay alert. They sleep poorly, but expect their body to burn fat efficiently. They push harder, thinking more discipline will solve the problem. But in reality, they are creating the exact hormonal environment that blocks fat loss. Let me explain how this works. When cortisol is elevated, your body increases blood sugar to provide quick energy. That's a survival response. But increased blood sugar leads to increased insulin. And as you already know, when insulin is elevated, fat burning is turned off. So even if you are fasting, your body is still in a storage-friendly environment. This is why many people feel stuck. They are fasting, but their internal signals are telling their body to hold on. Now there's another layer to this that almost no one talks about. Your first meal after fasting. Most people break their fast based on convenience or craving. Something quick, something satisfying, often high in sugar or refined carbohydrates. And in that moment, they undo hours of progress. Because that first meal determines what happens next. If you break your fast with a meal that spikes insulin aggressively, your body immediately shifts back into storage mode. And once that happens, it takes several hours to return to a state where fat burning is possible again. So instead of spending your day in fat burning mode, you spend most of it going in and out of storage mode, never fully accessing your fat stores. And this creates a cycle. You fast, but inefficiently. You eat, but in a way that blocks progress. And over time, nothing changes. Let me ask you something important. When you finish your fasting window, what is the first thing you usually eat? Because this single decision can either accelerate your results or completely stop them. And here's the part that changes everything. The goal of intermittent fasting is not to suffer through hours without food. The goal is to create a hormonal environment where your body naturally shifts into fat burning and stays there long enough to make a difference. That means controlling insulin, managing stress, and structuring your meals in a way that supports the process instead of interrupting it. In the next part, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. The correct way to structure your fasting, how to prepare your body before the fast begins, and how to break your fast without shutting down fat burning. Because once you get this right, everything starts to move. Now, let's put everything into a clear, practical structure. Because once you understand the biology, the next step is knowing exactly what to do, and more importantly, what to stop doing. If your goal is to lose belly fat, intermittent fasting needs to be done with intention, not randomly, not based on trends, but based on how your body actually responds. Step 1. Stop forcing long fasting windows too early. This is where most people begin, and where they start going wrong. Jumping straight into 16 or even 18 hours of fasting might sound effective, but if your body is still dependent on constant glucose, this creates stress. And when stress increases, cortisol rises. When cortisol rises, fat loss slows down. So instead of starting with extremes, begin with a controlled window. 12 to 14 hours. This allows your body to gradually lower insulin and start accessing fat without triggering a defensive response. As your body adapts, extending the fasting window becomes natural, not forced. Step 2. Fix your last meal of the day. This is one of the most powerful adjustments you can make. Your final meal determines how quickly your body will enter fat-burning mode during the fast. If that meal is high in sugar, refined carbs, or ultra-processed foods, your insulin stays elevated for hours. That delays the metabolic switch. But if your last meal is built around protein, healthy fats, and fiber, insulin remains stable, and your body transitions into fat burning much faster. This is where most people lose hours of potential fat burning time without realizing it. Step 3. Protect your fasting window. Many people unknowingly break their fast while thinking they're still doing everything right. A sweetened coffee, a flavored drink, even certain low-calorie products can trigger an insulin response. And the moment insulin rises, fat burning stops. So during your fasting window, keep it clean. Water, black coffee, plain tea, nothing else. Your goal is to keep your body in a state where it has no reason to store energy, only to use what's already there. Step 4. Break your fast strategically. This is where everything either works or resets. Your first meal should not be impulsive. It should be intentional. Start with protein. This stabilizes blood sugar and reduces the insulin spike. Add healthy fats to maintain satiety and include fiber to slow down absorption. This combination allows your body to transition smoothly from fasting to feeding without shutting down fat burning completely. If you break your fast with sugar or refined carbs, you create a spike and crash cycle that keeps your body dependent on glucose and away from fat burning. Step 5. Manage your stress and recovery. This is the part most people ignore, and it's often the missing piece. If you're sleeping poorly, constantly stressed, and relying on caffeine to function, your body is already in a high alert state. Adding aggressive fasting on top of that can backfire. Instead of pushing harder, focus on stabilizing your system. Improve sleep quality. Reduce unnecessary stress. Use fasting as a tool, not as a punishment. Because fat loss is not just about eating less, it's about creating the right internal environment. Step 6. Stay consistent, not extreme. Your body responds to patterns, not occasional effort. A consistent 14-hour fast done correctly will always outperform an inconsistent 18-hour fast done poorly. This is where real progress happens, quietly, gradually, but sustainably. And here's what you'll start to notice when you do this right. Your energy becomes more stable. Cravings begin to fade. You stop thinking about food constantly, and slowly, your body starts to change. The belly fat that once felt impossible to lose begins to respond. In the final part, I'm going to show you the most common mistakes that silently block belly fat loss, even when everything seems right, and how to avoid falling back into the same cycle again. Now, before you think this is just about applying a few steps and everything will finally work, there's one more thing you need to see clearly. Because most people don't fail with intermittent fasting because they lack discipline. They fail because of small, invisible mistakes, repeated every single day. Mistakes that feel harmless, but completely block belly fat loss. The first mistake is believing that fasting longer automatically means better results. This idea is everywhere. If 16 hours works, then 18 must be better. But your body doesn't reward extremes. It responds to balance. When fasting becomes too aggressive, especially in a stressed system, cortisol rises. Your body becomes protective. Energy drops. Fat loss slows down. And instead of burning belly fat, your body holds on to it even more. This is why some people fast longer and see no progress, because they're focusing on duration instead of internal conditions. The second mistake is ignoring the small things that break your fast. This is one of the biggest hidden problems. A little milk in your coffee, a flavored drink, even zero-calorie products that still trigger an insulin response. These small inputs may seem insignificant, but for your body, they are signals. Signals that energy is coming in. And the moment that signal appears, fat burning stops. Not gradually, instantly. So you think you're fasting, but metabolically, you're not. The third mistake is underestimating the impact of sleep. When you don't sleep well, your entire hormonal system shifts. Hunger increases. Cravings become stronger. Insulin sensitivity decreases. Cortisol rises. And your body moves into a state where fat storage is prioritized. In that condition, fasting becomes harder and much less effective. Because your body is not working with you. It's trying to compensate. The fourth mistake is breaking your fast emotionally instead of strategically. After hours without food, it's easy to fall into a reward mindset. I earned this. And that usually leads to sugar, refined carbs, or ultra-processed foods. And in that moment, hours of progress are undone. Your body shifts straight back into storage mode. And when this happens daily, your system never stabilizes. You stay stuck in a loop, fasting without results. The fifth mistake is expecting immediate, visible changes. Belly fat is often the last to go, not the first. And if you rely only on what you see in the mirror during the first days or weeks, you might think nothing is happening. But internally, your body is adapting. Insulin levels are stabilizing. Metabolic flexibility is improving. These changes take time, but they are the foundation for real, lasting fat loss. If you stop too early, you interrupt the process before it has a chance to work. So let me ask you one final question. What if the reason your belly fat hasn't changed isn't because intermittent fasting doesn't work, But because no one ever showed you how to do it correctly? Because now you know. You understand that fasting is not about skipping meals. It's about lowering insulin and activating fat burning. You understand that stress, sleep, and food choices can either support or block your results. And you understand that small mistakes, repeated daily, can completely change your outcome. This is where things shift. If this changed the way you see fasting, don't leave it here. Apply it. Start simple. Clean your fasting window. Adjust your last meal. Break your fast with intention. And observe how your body responds. If you want a simple structure to follow, I've prepared a step-by-step fasting guide designed specifically for fat loss. You'll find it in the description below. Subscribe if you want to understand your body beyond trends. And finally, make fasting work for you. And share this with someone who feels stuck, because sometimes the difference between frustration and real progress is just one missing piece of understanding. This is not just about fasting. It's about finally working with your body instead of against it.